So Maharashtra Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar's death in that tragic air crash leaves a huge void in Maharashtra's politics. How will that void be filled? How should one look at the legacy of Ajit Pawar? And importantly, what happens to the NCP and the Pawar family legacy next? Joining me now are Daniel Francis, Maharashtra-based political analyst, works also closely with Eknath Shinde. Sudhir Suryavanshi is a senior journalist based in Mumbai. Clyde Crasto, national spokesperson and secretary NCP Sharad Pawar. Appreciate all of you joining us on the show. Let me come first to you, Clyde Crasto, because the big question, how do you first assess Ajit Pawar's legacy? How will you best remember Ajit Pawar, given the fact that just a few years ago, he rebelled against Sharad Pawar and broke the NCP?
You see, Rajdeep, the Ajit Dada that I fondly know of is a man who was connected to the grassroots. He was a people's man. I mean, for me, actually loss of words because I've worked with him for more than 20 years now. And I remember him as a man who was always on time, impeccable presence of mind. I mean, he was always there to help people. I'll just, there are so many anecdotes about him. I'll give you a simple anecdote. As I remember, a few years ago, we were at August Kranti Maidan for August Kranti Divas, and it was raining heavily. You know how it rains so heavily in Mumbai, in sometime in July, August. And we were, taking shade under the pandal somewhere. And at a distance, I saw a figure standing holding an umbrella. And then we tried to look closer. It was Ajit Dada, who came perfectly on time because he knew this was the time for that program to start. But people had scattered because it was raining so heavily. And the August Kranti Maidan can get flooded. But he was there, and he was there on time. And when we went there, he said, I'm here because you all are here. We have to be there on time. Whether it's 7 o'clock when he's holding a Janta Darbar, meeting people, helping people. The legacy of the man is someone whom I will always remember as someone who was there for everyone. You could approach him, you could meet him at any time. I mean, there is a lot of, you say that you go through a personal assistant or PA or whatever, but if you called out Dada, and he would always answer you. So, I don't know. I'm actually, when early...
I take your point because I remember doing an interview with him in Baramati 2 years ago, less than 2 years ago at 6 a.m. in the morning. I was bleary-eyed, but he was fresh and he had met dozens of people. He kept a very punishing schedule, was extremely hardworking. Sudhir Suryavanshi, Ajit Dada's legacy also is seen to divide people depending on how you look at him. There were those who sort of targeted him, accused him of corruption, of scams. And there were those who reminded people that he was a very able administrator, held several posts and was extremely hardworking and, as Clyde said, connected to the ground. How do you see Ajit Pawar's legacy? Does he leave a huge void in Maharashtra's politics, particularly that of the NCP, a party which now revolved in a way around the persona of Ajit Pawar, with Sharad Pawar now 85?
Ajit Pawar, Rajdeep, as you mentioned, you also tweeted about your encounter with Ajit Pawar, and you went with the blurry eyes. I also remember, I just want to, share this anecdote. I also remember when I first met him, and he has given me the time of 7 o'clock for the interview. And I used to stay in New Mumbai, that was far away from his place. So I was late for 10 minutes. And then in between 10 minutes, I got more than 50 calls from his PA, the people who works with him. Dada is waiting for you. Dada is waiting. Where are you? Where are you? And I lost that, 10, 15 minutes. Then after that, there was another schedule of meeting, and the series of meeting went still 11 o'clock. I waited for him till 11 o'clock. Then I met him. He said, Mr. Surenshi, I waited for you, and you were not there on the time. So sorry. Then we fixed the next meeting. Then since that time, I decided to meet him either afternoon or in the evening, because to meeting him early morning was tough for us, and it was easy for him. That is the first thing. Second thing, his demise leaves a lot of vacuum, a lot of void, not only in his party, family, but in Maharashtra politics also. If you see in number wise, Maharashtra government is stable. They don't have any threat, because they have more than simple majority in a state assembly. That is almost 230 MLAs with them against the magic figure of 145 in 288 number of state assembly. That is the first thing. Second thing, I think it will leave the big vacuum in NCP, both NCP, because as I remember, both NCP was trying to merge and come together. The consensus was made within the Pawar family also. The baton has to be forwarded to the Ajit Pawar, and he is the man who can lead the party and the family. And suddenly this incident happened, and I think now the family has to go back again. They have to find out the ways. Now what will happen with the Ajit Pawar NCP, whether people will always remember or always remain with him, will be their next leader. There are many questions now.
You're making a very important point. You're actually claiming that the Pawar family was almost convinced there was a need for a merger. The merger was imminent, and Ajit Pawar would lead the NCP. Am I correct? You're saying that an NCP merger was imminent?
Yeah, absolutely. NCP merger was imminent. Everybody understood the importance. Therefore, as a litmus test or as a initial stage, they tied up in the Pune and Pimpri-Chinchwad municipal corporation election. Again, they were tying up in the Jilla Parishad election, and he was on his route for the campaigning for his candidate in the Baramati. And after that, he was returning back to the Mumbai. So merger was on the card, and there were many people within the NCP in Sharad Pawar group. They were happy. Many of them in Ajit Pawar group were happy, but some of them were not happy because they didn't wanted to see another leadership. But now the sudden demise of Ajit Pawar, untimely demise of Ajit Pawar will make big question mark. Who will be their leader? Because Sharad Pawar, he's almost 85, and very difficult for him to do all this work which Ajit Pawar used to do. So it is big question within the Pawar family, within the two factions of NCP, who will be their leader now? That is a big question.
Okay, that I'll come to that with Clyde in a moment. But Daniel Francis, it's quite remarkable. He was Deputy Chief Minister 6 times, and under different chief ministers, under Congress chief ministers like Prithviraj Sawan, under a BJP chief minister like Devendra Fadnavis, again under a Shiv Sena chief minister like Eknath Shinde. It almost seemed much like Nitish Kumar is a permanent chief minister in Bihar. Ajit Pawar had become the permanent deputy chief minister in Maharashtra. He almost was invaluable in that sense to whoever was in power. They needed almost Ajit Pawar around.
In many ways, Rajdeep, he was deserving but never promoted. In 2004, if you go back, the NCP had, good numbers to claim the chief minister's post, but they almost gave it away for the Congress party. And that
no, they had more seats than the Congress. They had one more seat than the Congress.
Congress, and they couldn't negotiate it for Ajit Pawar. I think that was also a complaint that he had from his party bosses. But, he was an essential part of governance for the last 20 years, and mostly part of every government except Fadnavis 2014 to 2019. And was a very pragmatic leader. I think he understood what happened after 2014 and what was important for the party and for the region that they represented, that they need to move closer to the BJP. I think that thought process was not appreciated by his party supremo, and he did move closer to the BJP, creating a crisis in 2019. And thereafter we know the story. But he was a very pragmatic guy, and he had a very, very good relationship with party workers, party leaders. Yeah.
He moved closer to the BJP, but he did not. But he moved closer. He moved closer, Daniel, to the BJP, but he did not subscribe to the Hindutva ideology. In fact, more recently, when a few BJP leaders made inflammatory remarks against minorities, he spoke out against them.
No. For example, in the winter session of the Maharashtra Assembly, all the political leaders would once visit the RSS headquarters. He never participated in something like that. He maintained his identity, and he maintained, it's a very difficult thing to do it in today's NDA, but he did that and managed to do that very well. So he was very unique. He was, man of his own making. He never compromised on many things. That he was a cooperative guy. He was in a way a congressman, cut from the same cloth, and he maintained that identity till the last day of his life. So that was a very interesting part. And let's see one thing,
You know,
that he was abused 4 or 5 days before he joined the NDA by the prime minister himself. There's a political name calling, but he was almost vindicated by the BJP itself, that he was brought back in the government and made the number two, number three position in the same NDA. So, he had a very
right.
interesting journey. You cannot like him, you can hate him, but Maharashtra politics could not ignore him.
That's right, because all the charges that were made by the BJP against him in the so-called irrigation scam, 70,000 crore as it was called, eventually Ajit Pawar was part of that BJP government. Many believe he was a little impatient at times, which could border on the reckless, quite unlike his uncle Sharad Pawar, who was much more cautious. But speaking of the Pawars,
Rajdeep.
taking off from what Sudhir Suryavanshi said, Clyde Crasto, yeah, Clyde Crasto, taking out from what Sudhir Suryavanshi said, what happens now to the NCP? Does the NCP have to make a choice now between going with the India Alliance or going with the NDA? Will the Pawar family now be able to come together without Ajit Pawar there to sort of guide it on the ground in Maharashtra in particular? Sharad Pawar has spent a large part of his politics in the last 20 years in Delhi, Supriya Sule in Delhi. So who guides the NCP, and will we see a united NCP now?
See, Rajdeep, this is a time of grief. To talk about something like this, I think it's not the right time to even discuss something of this matter. But for what I'm trying to tell you here is that at the end of the day, it's a tragic, thing that has happened to all of us. I could, vaguely decipher what Sudhir was saying. The thing is, he did what he felt was right, for himself. Okay. And the cadre, they decided they wanted to be with Dada. Some people wanted to be with Sahib. Each one has their prerogative. And I'll tell you one thing, you cannot rule out anybody in politics. Everybody has their own standing. And the NCP, whether it was NCP of Ajit Pawar or whether it was NCP of Sharad Pawar Sahib, we continue doing our work. But to speak about it at this moment of time where we are all in grief, and let me tell you something, the question could be like, I am a spokesperson of the NCP, Sharad Pawar, but I'm talking about Ajit Pawar. Let me tell you something. Ajit Pawar as an individual and Ajit Pawar as a politician are two different people altogether. And the man had a big heart. I mean, I'm controlling my emotions today. I've known him, closely.
In fact,
but the man had a big heart, And so today at this time, I don't want to think of him as a politician. I want to think of him as a man who was connected to the grassroots. I want to think of him as a man who helped people, a man who touched many lives. Okay, he did what he had to do. I mean, it's fair enough. But this is a man who we have lost today, a man who worked for the people. 6 o'clock in the morning, if somebody said, Dada, mala madad kara, and he would never tell the PA. He would call the PA and say, hey baga, and he zhala paije. This has to be done. So let's remember the man today as someone who touched a lot of hearts. Let's not think about what he did or what he shouldn't have done. A man with a golden heart, and we've lost him today.
And someone, therefore, who won elections for over 30 years, and you don't win election after 30 years, for 30 years, barring that one election where his wife, of course, contested against Supriya Sule, something that he was discomforted by, I can tell you from my conversations with him. But the truth of the matter is he was, as was just said, a doer, and he kept his word. And I will always recall a conversation I had with him in 2024 where he also revealed his great love for cricket. And he smiled because Ajit Pawar was known as someone who didn't like journalists too much and didn't smile too often. But somehow that day in Baramati, he smiled a lot. He seemed very relaxed. And my thoughts are with him and his family.